that we would make a change, a powerful change in this community for the better. It's in God's name we pray. Amen.
Well, good morning. The height of this microphone might be a little challenging. I hope you can hear me in the back. It is really a privilege to stand before you this morning. My name is Liz Sutherland, and I am the board treasurer for Pharmacy of Grace. And I have been involved with this effort for quite some time. We want to thank you for coming. We want to thank you for your support. We have so many gracious donors who have already given to this effort. And I wanted to recognize a few of them this morning. First of all, we would not be in this location if two things hadn't come together. The first thing was a huge invitation from Mercy and Truth Medical Missions, who relentlessly pursued us to come and put a pharmacy in this building. The second, yes. The second was the gift of a grant from the Sunderland Foundation, who supported the construction of our beautiful location. So we are so thankful for those two things coming together. Now, the construction work was done by an outstanding organization called Three Square. There are people here from Three Square. We thank you for every detail, for everything you did. And to Joel Perry, our architect, who donated his time to do the planning, and the architect prior to Joel, who got us something that we could actually show the Sunderland Foundation, and that's Jim Pettijohn, and I see him over there, and we are thankful to him as well. So I have a partial list, and if I forget someone first, please forgive me, but there's a long list of foundations who have helped support us. The very first one was the Reach Foundation. They gave us a grant to help us get started. Those were followed by donations from Health Forward Foundation, from Advent Health, from the United Methodist Church of the Resurrection, from H&R Block, Mercy and Truth Medical Missions, as I mentioned before, the Dunn family, and Mariner Wealth. There are quite a number of individuals who have also generously contributed, but I'm going to skip all those names and ask you to go to our website and take a look at all of our donors. The other people that really were instrumental in this effort are the board members, many of whom were original to our cause. So they came to that first board meeting in May of 2018, and there were many times during the course of those 4 years we didn't know if we'd ever get here. But we're here now, and we're very grateful to all of them. So I'd like to specifically provide a shout out to all of them and thank them for their time and their generous donations. So a lot of people ask me, why did I get involved in Pharmacy of Grace? Well, a very dear friend introduced me to John Yost, our board president. She happens to be here today. Her name is Debbie Nixon, and she is the managing executive director at Church of the Resurrection. She knew a bit about my background and felt that I might be able to help John in some small way. After I met him and learned about his vision and dedication to the mission of Pharmacy of Grace, I felt I had to use whatever I could do to help him in this effort. You know, chronic disease has touched most of us somewhere in our lives. And for me, I have a sister who is about my age, who has suffered from diabetes since she was 11 years old. And it has taken her mobility, part of her eyesight, and so many things away from her. And she was at a point where she could actually get access to medicine, but there's so much more than just having access to medicine. There is the point at which you have to understand what you need to do with it. So anyway, I didn't want to think about more people losing their mobility, their quality of life to chronic disease. So when John shared his vision of creating this pharmacy that truly helped people, I was all in. Therefore, it's my honor to introduce you this morning to Dr. John Yost. John is a PharmD. John also has an MBA. He has a diverse background in pharmacy and the pharmaceutical industry. And from just all of those things, you know this is a smart guy. But that's not his greatest quality. His greatest quality is compassion. That quality was refined as he became a pastor and served at Church of the Resurrection in the missions department. That's where the inspiration for this pharmacy came into being. So it is through his intelligence, his compassion, his ability to work and influence others that we are here today. He's dedicated 5 years and counting to this mission, and it is an honor to introduce him at this grand opening ceremony. Thank you, and here's John.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you for all coming. It's exciting to be here. It's been, as Liz said, a long road. It's been 5 years, hard to believe. But we had a little thing called COVID, which put a little brake on it, but it didn't stop us. I feel like this is the peak of my career. I came out of pharmacy school, I practiced pharmacy, and then I went into the pharmaceutical industry. I had a long, productive career, had a call and became a pastor. Then I was lucky enough to go into the missions department, and Carol Cartmill invited me on a trip to Columbus, Ohio. Well, I saw the charitable pharmacy of Central Ohio. I went back twice after that, and I just couldn't get it out of my mind. I talked to many people, many of you here are here, and I kept talking about it, kept analyzing, researching, until one day my wife finally said, "Are you going to keep talking about this? You're going to do something about it." So that led me to this position right here in Wyandotte County. And I've been asked why Wyandotte County. Well, I'm a data-driven person, but I want to tell you that when I was looking at the data, there's a lot of organizations doing wonderful things in Wyandotte County to take care of patients. But as I dug into the data, I found some things that showed that there was a gap in prescription coverage. And if you look around this neighborhood, we're in an area that's about 30 to 40% uninsured. So that's one issue. That's about 28,000 people in Wyandotte. But the other issue that I found, I call it the signs and symptoms, were what was happening with chronic diseases. In Wyandotte County, the hospital admission rates are about double for many of the chronic diseases. That's the state of Kansas. And what that tells you, what that means, I was taught early in my career that each specialty has a tool. A surgeon used a scalpel historically. Now they use lasers, they use robots, but primary care providers, what they use are prescription medications. And the primary care providers can be brilliant. They can have it super planned, but if they give a medication and the patient doesn't get it, doesn't fill it, or doesn't know how to take it, it's all a waste of time. It really is. So that was the thing that brought me to Wyandotte County. I felt like that gap was there. It's very clear. And we had the opportunity to interview a patient. Her name is Ruby. And Ruby is a brittle diabetic. And this is before we opened. But Ruby is a brittle diabetic who ended up the night before we talked to her in the emergency department with a blood glucose of 600. Now, normal is less than 100. So it's amazing. Number one, she walked to the emergency department. Number two, that she made it to talk to us the next day. But her story was that, and can you imagine walking into a chain pharmacy and you don't speak any English and you have 7 prescriptions? What are you going to do with that? Well, she found her way finally to get those priced anyway. And she said, I'll take those 2 because that's all she could afford. And it didn't manage her medication. And she pointed out 2 other things to us that is a national problem. Nationally, believe it or not, up to 3 out of 10 prescriptions written are never filled. That's kind of crazy. But the more shocking one is that 1 out of 2 prescriptions filled and taken are not taken as prescribed. And I'll bet you everybody in this crowd, and I know myself, I've been in that group where I didn't take it as prescribed. I should pick it up Monday, but I don't get it till Friday. It may that I forgot the dose, or I feel okay. I'm not going to take that. I mean, it's human nature, but on the other hand, it may be I can't afford it, or if I get it, I have no idea what to do with it. So Pharmacy of Grace, that's part of our mission, is number one, access to prescriptions. So we're open to anybody, and I mean anybody. 100% less the poverty, 200% below the poverty level. If you have Medicare, Medicaid, prescription insurance, we're a full-service pharmacy. In fact, prescriptions with insurance help fund the mission because it all goes back into Pharmacy of Grace. So the second thing is and I think sets us apart, if you had a chance to walk in there, you see the 3 counseling rooms. Our pharmacists sit down with each and every patient, what's this drug for, how do you take this drug, and most importantly, what happens if you don't take it. And we're going to do that over and over and over again. It's not that model of handing you the bag across the counter and say, do you have any questions for the pharmacist? And there's a line behind you, and you're not going to hold that line up, so you 99% of the time you say, no, I don't have any questions, just give that to me and let me get out of here. We're not doing that. That's not our model. So the last thing is, the question I get is, why did I start this? Why is our board starting this? Why is our staff engaged? It's really very simple. We're answering the call that Jesus gave us to serve. And if you look at Matthew 25, it goes farther what we're supposed to do. And this is paraphrased, but in Matthew 25, Jesus said to people, he said, when I was thirsty, you gave me water. When I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was sick, you took care of me. And they said, Master, when did we do that? He said, when you take care of those most in need, you're doing it for me. And so that's what Grace, that's our mission. We're trying to empower patients, and we're trying to take care of them. And by the way, empowering patients may be the most important thing we do, because once you hand that prescription to a patient, the most important person in the whole medical management is the patient. And if they don't know what to do, all of our efforts, the primary care providers, the pharmacists, it's just wasted. And we don't want that to happen. And so we're trying to bring something that, if you walked in there, you won't see this in any other county in Kansas, basically. So we want to bring service, a setting that's not like any other setting. And the last thing I just want to say, audience at Sprinkling, but thank you so much for all the funders. Thank you so much for all the mental support, the physical support, the donations, the computers, Geeks for God. Thanks for everything that's been given to us, and thanks for your prayers, because we know that made a difference. So with that, I'd like to call up the board and the staff that are here, and we thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it. We're going to cut this ribbon and open Pharmacy of Grace. Are we ready? And open. Thank you so much for coming. Anybody that would like a tour, this board and the staff are available for tours, and so we'd love to show you the pharmacy.